Hello, everyone. Welcome, Ruby. Hello, my name is Dr. Sarmila Sinha. I'm a consultant psychiatrist. And every week we are doing live discussion on COVID, and I'm interviewing inspiring individuals on how they are being creative and how they are battling the COVID pandemic. And today my very special guest is Ruby Nayyar. I'm really excited to interview her. So Ruby is a classical dancer and yoga and fitness instructor. And she has been in the yoga and fitness industry for the past 20 years. She has a background of classical Indian Kathak dance. She runs her own dance academy known as indiadancers.com. Ruby runs workshops on dancing, storytelling, dancing, and dance yoga. And she has also led various NHS health and well-being programs where there has been an initiative to improve the fitness. So welcome, Ruby. Would you like to add a bit more about yourself? What do you do and what your current projects are, please?
Oh, thank you so much, Sarmila. First of all, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure, and I feel so honoured and privileged to be here, speaking to you and sharing my story with everyone. So, first of all, thank you ever so much. I think one of the first things that I'm working on is just kind of, I guess we're all adapting to this new norm, and my classes, my students, in the beginning of this COVID-19, it had all dried up, and so I'm pleased to say that I am still running my classes, and I've also got a few new classes that I'm planning to run that are actually in the pipeline. So I don't just teach dance, but I also teach, I coach for nutritional workshops, and I also have a love of art. So I studied art and design at university, and my kids love art and design, and their friends have been asking, can you put on a yoga and dance inspired workshop that it also incorporates your love of art? And so it is a really exciting opportunity that I'm looking forward to. Yes. And especially for young kids right now, because with boredom and homeschooling, it's kind of getting them motivated to think outside of the box. And also I studied English literature at A-level, and all the poetry and all the literature that now my eldest daughter is going forward and studying into secondary school. So it's all coming back to me, and I'm thinking of creative ways in which actually poetry is an intrinsic part of Kathak dance. So all the ghazals and the shairs and even some of the religious aspects of Kathak dance, they're all based on a poetic influence. And so these are all projects that my students and their parents have all asked me to put on, and it is something that I am really excited to share with everybody.
Thank you so much, Ruby. This is amazing. I know that there is a bit of a delay today joining live on Facebook. I am still trying. And while we are sorting this out, I just would like to ask you, because we will also be recording this, and it is going to go live on Facebook, and there will be a podcast as well as a YouTube recording. So for all our listeners, can you please tell us how you have adapted your work to adjust to the challenges of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic? How have you changed your way of working?
Okay. Yes, so traditionally, dance and specifically Kathak dance and the arts were all taught face to face, and we would go on retreats and there would be the Bhavan summer school, and my Guruji would insist on having us in the class, learning face to face all the time. And especially something like Kathak, for example, learning all the mudras and abhinaya, which is a really important aspect of Kathak dance, which is the expressional form of dance. And it is actually one of the most difficult aspects to grasp, even though it's one of the most beautiful aspects. And I think this COVID-19, as terrible as it is, we kind of have to think of some of the positives that are now being drawn out from this this pandemic. And I think as we transition from this into a new norm, and we're all adapting, it is something that, you know, for example, a student who lived in West London previously would have had to think twice about coming to me, because I'm now in East London because of the travel. Mm-hmm. And so now, as the technology matures, and as we're all adapting to this new norm, it's adapting in a really beneficial way for both the student and the teacher. So as a student as well, as I still learn Kathak from my Guruji, Sushma Mehta, and I know she's also grappling with all the technology that's going with this new norm that we're facing. So I think the positives is that now my exposure isn't just to my students who live locally to me, but that my exposure is now on a global level. I can give you another example. For example, this morning I was teaching my online class. So I had many students who wouldn't have normally attended my class because of the distance. And I had a full class this morning. Mm-hmm. And it was a really fun dance inspired workout that we did. So, yeah.
So, Ruby, the reason I got so inspired by what you're doing during this pandemic is that I know you are very humble and you're not telling, but actually you are offering free 3 days a week, free lessons, workouts. I mean, how amazing is that? And how generous is that? You are not only sharing your skills, but you are motivating others. You are encouraging people to improve their fitness levels, especially people now that they are housebound during the COVID pandemic, unable to go out, unable to go to the gym. And you are setting such a wonderful example for people that actually you can do exercise at home in the comfort of your home, and not just 1 or 2. You're offering 3 free sessions, and you know, I'm really so grateful that you're doing this. And I had a chance to join 1 or 2 of your sessions, and I personally found them amazing. The workouts were great. You know, there was so much of activity, and you have a unique way of combining dance technique, the classical dance techniques, with the modern aerobics. And that's a very unique way. Not everybody can do that, but with such grace you do it, and people don't feel that they're learning something new. They just feel that this is a regular workout, but they benefit so much. And you emphasize on all the important bits of fitness, you know, the cores. You emphasize on the toning and all the heart rate going up, and these are so essential for getting a good workout. That's why, you know, I was so inspired, especially, you know, to invite you. So I know that you also want to do something for the children. Do you want to say what's in your mind? What you wanted to do something for the kids?
Oh, thank you so much. That's really touched my heart. Firstly, I just have an immense passion. I have a calling to teach. So my 3 or 4 aspects of passion is obviously dance, which I've been doing since I was a young child. Thanks to my father, who introduced me to Kathak back in the 80s, when Kathak was really very difficult to get hold of, really good teachers. And so the second thing is nutrition. And the third thing is my art and yoga, which I did yoga throughout my pregnancies, so pre-pregnancy and post-pregnancy. And I found that with yoga, it is all about using your mind as well as your body. And I think that's where my yoga practice comes into my Kathak practice, because they fit in so well, they marry so well with each other. And I teach Bollywood dance at the local prep school near where I live. Actually, it's my daughters that go there. And the parents there have asked me, can you please put on a yoga class for the children? And another parent has said, every Monday, Ruby, you teach Bollywood, and her daughter now, even in lockdown, she just puts on the songs, and she's already in that routine of dancing to some of my routines, which I incorporate classical Indian dance too. So I was really inspired by their feedback. And so yes, I really am looking forward to starting the yoga classes with the children. And I must say that it's not just for children. I think it would be really beneficial for the parents to join in as well, because then they get a more kind of, there's more connection then, and the parents get to understand the movements, and the children feel a little bit more at ease. So my vision is that to kind of introduce it as a family workout with the kids. Yeah.
That's amazing, Ruby. So the next question I would like to ask you is, you know, I heard recently you had a bit of an injury, and you actually overcame a lot of significant pain, and to get back to the track of teaching dancing to the fitness level that you have. I mean, that was an incredible journey, and quite an emotional one. And it kind of created a sense of personal victory for you when you overcame the pain. But it took a lot of courage, isn't it? And to the extent that your pain clinic even have recommended that you go out and speak about your journey and write blogs. And we are really pleased to know that we would be publishing your blog on our website, www.livinglifestressfree.com. For people who want to check out Ruby's blog, please log on to our website. You could even subscribe. It's www.livinglifestressfree.com. And we would like to hear, Ruby, from you. Just talk us through what this journey has meant for you, what sort of revelations you had. And I know that you have put more emphasis on things like, you know, I'm going to let you speak actually, and then I'm going to bring those few points out, which I think is so relevant. Yeah, over to you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, you're right. It has been an extremely traumatic experience over the last several months. Well, it started last May, end of May last year. I unfortunately had quite a bad injury. It actually started off as a trivial injury, but then went on to being quite serious. Not serious as in life and death, but serious in that it really affected my life and my family's life. The snapshot of it was that I lost complete mobility of my right dominant hand, my thumb, my hand, my wrist, and my elbow, to the point where, forget about dancing. Dancing, I had to drop. I had to quit I was in the process of preparing for a really amazing performance with my Guruji last summer, and we had spent the last several months preparing for this, and I had to drop out. And to be honest, at that time, that was kind of the last thing on my mind. The most important thing on my mind was, how do I support my children? How do I support myself and my students? How do I get through daily life without the use of my hand? Because every time I used my hand, it excruciatingly, and the pain just continued throughout the summer, and eventually I was just in pieces, and I remember saying to my husband, do you know what, childbirth was easier than this. And I'm sure you know, having given birth, childbirth is one of the most painful experiences you can go through. However, childbirth only lasts for a set amount of time and then it's over with. Whereas this pain was constant and it was debilitating. Now, I'll just go into how I recovered. Now, my journey was, I slipped into a very low period. Now, before I go into how I managed to pull myself out of that, I just like to share a story with you about something that had happened to me in my childhood, which I think shaped how I kind of went through this trauma. So when I was a very young child, unfortunately I contracted TB. Mm-hmm. and malaria from a trip to India. And when we came back to England, I was immediately quarantined into one of the best hospitals in London, thankfully. Now, in the 80s, this was 1982, I believe. Yeah. And in those days, we didn't have access to all the things that we have now. We didn't have private medical care, but the one thing that I was very thankful for was that my parents, they saw the symptoms early enough and they took me out of school. So I was about 7 or 8 years old then. And I remember my hair being completely chopped off. I had beautiful long hair. My hair was chopped off because they thought that, you know, she's got TB. If she doesn't take the medication, if she isn't quarantined, she will not just affect other people, but there's a possibility that she could die. So this was life and death. And I remember having to take a cocktail of medication at the age of 7. Now, when you're so young, your body is so resilient. And I know this from my own kids, from my students, from the courses and the degrees that I've done, that our bodies are so resilient and we adapt very quickly. So as a child, I just did it. I just took it. However, there was something inside me that I just hated taking the medication. There was a concoction of medication that I had to take. And if I didn't take them, I would have died. And thankfully, we had access to that. Now, going back to how that relates to what happened here, was that eventually, by the time last year, by the time I was on my last legs with the pain that I was experiencing, I reached out to a number of specialists, and I was fortunate enough to have access to private medical care. And I then was told that I needed to take medication. And this isn't the kind of medication that you can get off the shelf. These are specific, very, actually, they have incredibly awful side effects. And I'm sure as a doctor and a psychiatrist, you know the effects that has on your patients. And it was a double-edged sword for me, because on the one hand, I was told that you need to take the medication to recover. However, I couldn't take the medication, when I did take the medication, I couldn't wake up in the morning, for example, and I'd miss the school runs for my daughters. And my husband, who works in the city, had to, miss meetings to, to take the kids out. Now, one of the things that I ended up doing was that I ended up reaching out to people. Even though I was in a dark place, I reached out. And when you go into that mental depression, as well as physical inability, my passion of dancing and teaching had completely been eliminated out of my life. And I was yearning that part of my life. It was like a loss. And I reached out to my co-workers, I reached out to my family, I started reaching out to my friends, and I started sharing, I am really in a difficult place. And they couldn't believe how such a strong-minded person and somebody who'd achieved so much in their life could have gone from up here to down there. Now, what I will say for people who are experiencing pain in particular is that it's really important to reach out and get the help that you require. Because without the help and without, it's like a ripple effect. So I started taking the medication, and that enabled me to start in getting the physiotherapy that I needed. It enabled me to get on the tube to go and see the pain specialist team. And while we're on this subject of pain specialists, I just want to extend my thanks and my gratitude to some of the people who have been on this journey with me. So one of the most amazing doctors that I've encountered, his name is Dr. Raj Raghavanshi, and he's an absolutely amazing man. He put me in touch with some phenomenal doctors, the pain specialist, the psychiatrist, who not is just a pain therapist, but she understands pain and medication. He introduced me to the physiotherapists who know about the mindset and about having a journey, but it's about a journey as well as getting yourself physically able to be in a place. So now, going back to my gratitude, now I think this is a really, really important aspect to recovery, because I remember last year in the summer, I couldn't even chop an apple. And I had to get my 6-year-old to use a knife to cut the apple, cut the fruit. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, she's helping me and I can't even do this. And it was such a heartbreaking moment. But at the same time, now I look back, my kids know how to cook in the kitchen. So I think, like I was saying in the beginning of this call, that from every bad situation that there is, as horrendous as it was for not being able to have the use of my whole limb and also being drowned in depression, it enabled my family to learn new skills. They were forced to cook. They were forced to use the knives and chop salads. And now my eldest daughter, she is the queen of salads. She can make a whole array of different dishes now, thanks to my injury. So, you know, I think it's really important to be able to kind of not have this stigma attached to, well, you know, I should be able to cope by myself, you know, because I reached out not just to the medical professionals who helped me on the medical side, but I also reached out to my friends. I had faith, I pray. I reached out to my group that I have where I chant, and they helped me. One of the ladies there, she helped me, and she came to cook for me several times. And you know, I think, you know, and my family as well, and my extended family, my in-laws, you know, they put me in touch with people who I was able to share my story with, and they gave me tips and they gave me ideas, because nobody could give me answers to why this pain was there, because it wasn't like a muscular pain or a when you break a bone, it takes 6 weeks to heal. This was taking months, several months. And so the pain was very much there, but it was controlled with so many aspects. It wasn't just one thing. It was eating right. It was taking the medications. It was taking an array of the meditation, the yoga that I do. And then slowly, I started saying to my Guruji, do you mind if I come back in the classes? I can't go and come to your classes fully, but I will try and do some of the movements. And I slowly started interacting with everybody. And now I've thankfully come to a place where I can help other people. And I think this was my calling. This was something that I so desperately wanted to do. I feel so passionate about helping other people that now anyone out there who is experiencing pain, really just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are just different pathways that you need to seek, and never give up. Absolutely never give up.
I think such a powerful story. It's amazing. And I think I particularly liked your emphasis on gratitude, and the realization that we actually take things for granted. And when we are debilitated, when we face injury and we can't use a certain body part, then we realize the importance of that body part. In your case, it was your hand. And it was not both your hands, just one hand. And to see how important that thing is, and your newfound gratitude, and and you have actually started cooking every day, and this helps in the pandemic. But do you want to share some, because I know you're also a champion of fitness, and you're a nutritionist, and I would like, for the benefit of our listeners, to kind of share some tips on nutrition, on how to remain healthy during the pandemic. I think that also helps boosting the immune system. People are going to benefit. And what is your fitness routine like as well? So I think we would all benefit from listening to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Shamila. So I think there are lots of things that we can integrate into our life now that things have transitioned into this kind of new norm. And I think really it's about kind of being creative with things. So not just kind of thinking outside of the box. So in my mind, my philosophy, I'm not going to tell you the benefits of eating healthy and the benefits of exercise, because I'm sure everybody knows that. It's the how. And like yourself, all my students and my clients want to know, how do you keep yourself motivated, Ruby? What do you do, especially during this time of uncertainty? Now, there are kind of 4 things that I integrate into my life, which I call the 4 pillars of health. So the first one is exercise, which is our activities that we do. The second one is our nutrition, which is our diet. The third one is our sleep, which is actually it's something that isn't really talked about much, but it is a really important aspect to health. And our kind of a mindset. So I'll just touch on each one briefly. Yes. So I think the first one is finding creative ways to keep ourselves active. Now, as human beings, we're born to move. And sitting at a desk, you get hunched over and you're typing away, and it kind of bears you down, it brings you down. So one of my absolute top tips is get yourself active if you can first thing in the morning, because at first thing in the morning you are most alert, your concentration is just there. And there are different ways in which you can do these activities. So yes, we're allowed to go outside. If you don't want to go outside, well, people think that being active means going to the gym and swimming, but now the gyms are closed. What do? We have to think outside of the box. So for me, it's doing yoga on a Monday. You could do a yoga class, or you could put on, we have access to the internet now with YouTube. Another day you could do some squats and some lunges. Speaking of squats and lunges, by the way, I incorporate those movements into my daily chores. So when I have to do chores, I start lunging, and I do my lunges while I'm doing the hoovering, and I get my kids to join in with me. Another activity that our listeners could do is you could join my class. So I run the classes 3 times a week. So Mondays is yoga inspired, Wednesdays is HIIT, which is high impact interval training, and Fridays is dance based, which incorporates classical Indian dance. There are another tip that I can share with you, which I have here, is this. Wow. Now this is a resistance band.
Okay.
Now this is something that you can take with you. It's irrespective of COVID-19, post-COVID-19, pre-COVID-19, or wherever we are now, in your suitcase. So if you're traveling, there are different levels, and you don't need access to a gym. Now, especially, it's really important as we age, and especially for the ladies who are entering their 30s, 40s, and beyond, our muscle mass starts to decrease. And, you know, this is a really good way of keeping ourselves toned up. So that's another way of keeping yourself active.
Wow.
So the next one is the nutrition. So with nutrition, I try and incorporate, we all have been told about the 5 a day from the government. So I try and incorporate 5 a meal. So I was recently asked to give a talk to a school for World Enterprise Day. And I encouraged the children to use 5 different fruits and vegetables in a smoothie. So we added beetroot, strawberries, pineapples, oranges, lemons, and limes. And it was bursting with so many colors, and the kids trying to be creative in what you do. Yes. You don't necessarily need to start thinking about, you know, going for takeaways and you know, having oven foods. We can create these things at home. And if now that travel time has been eliminated out of our, you know, our commuting, if people have time, they can use that to try and learn a new skill, learn cooking, learn how to, one day you do a Thai meal. Like, for example, tonight we're having Mexican. You know, so try to think creative and get your kids involved. The third thing, which is the sleep. Now, sleep is really important. And so what you have to do is you have to work backwards. So you have to think to yourself, well, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the morning. So I need to get to bed by 10. So your morning routine has to start the night before. Yeah. And I know it sounds like a really simple thing, but we're all focused on, you know, everything is instant. So I think, you know, putting your iPads away, closing everything down, and putting them aside. And the fourth thing, which is the mindset. I think this is really important because it enables us to really think about aspects of our life that we feel grateful for, like gratitude, and also having compassion for ourselves and for other people.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, when I was going through my pain, and I even now I write a little note. I have what I call here, it's called mindfulness. Wow. So it's a diary where I write things about what I feel grateful for, and they can be the most smallest of things, but I think the smallest things make the biggest difference in your life. I'm actually reading a really interesting book at the moment. It's called Atomic Habits, and in that book he talks about very small minor changes to your life can make absolutely amazing results. So people think that they need to make all sorts of big changes to reach their goals or weight loss or happiness, and it's the smallest changes that make the biggest results.
Wow.
So yeah, there you go.
Yes, well, that's amazing, Ruby. I think you have covered a lot of important issues in this you know, sort of session, and people are going to benefit. As I might remind people that this is going to be available as a podcast as well as on YouTube. So we will be sharing this on YouTube, Facebook, and podcast. And Ruby, could you, just before we end, if people would like to learn more about you, get in contact with you, could you just also let us know your website if they could get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure, Sarmila, thank you. So my website, it's www.india, as in the country India, dances, as in plural of dance, dances.com. Yes. And I'm also on Instagram, which is ruby.nayyar.dance.
Yes.
Yeah, so
great.
The final thing that I'd just like to add, actually, Sarmila, is which I think would benefit your listeners is that, try to be hungry for this love of learning. I mean, as a teacher and a student,
Yeah.
I see myself as a very small speck in this vast ocean, the sea. And if people can see themselves in that way, that there is always something to learn. If you're feeling down, listen to a podcast, listen to inspiring people, pick up an inspiring book,
Yeah.
read something inspiring, talk to people, and really don't isolate yourselves. Reach out to people,
Yeah.
because that really does help with embracing this new change that we're going through. We're all in this together.
Absolutely. So, Ruby, thank you so much. I'd like to remind everyone, please, if you would like to read Ruby's full story, please visit our website where we have published her blog. Our website is www.livinglifestressfree.com. And we are also giving out a free copy of our ebook, An Expert Guide to Stress Management, which became an Amazon #1 bestseller last year. So if you would like to have a free copy of this book, please subscribe to our website. And the exciting news is we have another very important guest coming up next Monday, Dr. Arghe Sakil, who is also a consultant psychiatrist. And I'm really looking forward. We're going to be sharing lots of tips. But Ruby, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Thank you, Shamila.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.